I want to turn to another aspect of this case. Before we had the sentencing for Derek Chauvin, we did have impact statements from some of those affected by the crime, and I want to give you a few portions of those. Obviously, these are going to be very emotional, so bear that in mind. But I want to show you first some of Gianna, George Floyd's daughter, what she had to say today.
Well, I ask about him all the time, and that's kinda it.
Do you wish that he was still here with us?
Yeah, but he is.
Through his spirit?
Yes.
Yes. And when you see your daddy again one day, what do you want to do when you see him?
We used to have dinner meals every single night before we went to bed. My daddy always used to help me brush my teeth.
Yeah. If you could say anything to your daddy right now, what would it be?
It would be, I miss you and I love you.
Obviously, that's devastating. I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with me that while I'm watching it, I'm obviously being affected by what Gianna is saying, but like I can't help but keep looking at Derek Chauvin, and there is something about that look that he always has on his face. And you can only see his eyes there, obviously, because of the mask, but every single time I see him, in the videos today, months ago, he never seems to be affected by literally any of this. Like, there's nothing behind his eyes. It is a dead, cold gaze. I don't know if that matters. Maybe I'm projecting that onto him. I don't know, David, what do you think?
No, I don't think you're projecting at all. And the thing is there was one time where he showed just a little bit of emotion. It was only when his mother was speaking. But, and the crummy part really seems to be is that when you had people pouring out their heart and really just having these emotive just reactions and sharing how George Floyd's murder impacted them, including seeing his child, talk about it, you'd think that a normal person would feel something, but Chauvin's not responding in any way. And I really think that continues to reiterate the point that I don't think he thinks he's done anything wrong. And based on what his mother's impact statement, it seems that his family thinks that he is the victim here.
Very similar to the guilty verdict, right? I mean, there was no emotion from him there when the jury found him guilty. So yeah, I think there is something empty inside, and maybe that sort of coldness, the lack of empathy, the lack of passion towards victims. Maybe that's what somehow I'm sure the psychologist would weigh and say that was probably part of his psyche that enabled him to do this horrible act to begin with.
That certainly seems possible. I'm curious, Adrienne, maybe this is something I heard on TV, I don't know. Are they trained to do this, to not give away how like assuming he is affected, assuming he has the capacity to be affected by what he's done and the suffering that he's seeing, are they told or trained by lawyers to not display that in court because that might be interpreted as some showing of guilt or something like that?
No, not particularly. People respond in an innate response that is very natural and normal, especially to hear that a nice amount of years of your life is going to be taken from you. It's best, of course, you don't want to yell anything out or speak in any way that could be used against you, but to show some semblance of humanity is what Derek Chauvin doesn't seem to be able to muster. And that is something that it just seems that it really continues to reinforce the thought that this man is callous.
Yeah.
And so good luck to him.
Yeah. Well, we also have some video of George Floyd's brother, Terrence. Let's go to that.
I wanted to know from the man himself, why? What were you thinking? What was going through your head when you had your knee on my brother's neck? Why? When you knew that he posed no threat anymore, he was handcuffed, why you didn't at least get up? On behalf of me and my family, we seek the maximum penalty. We don't want to see no more slaps on the wrist. We've been through that already. In my community, in my culture, we've been through that already. Smacked on the wrist. No. Because if it was us if the roles was reversed, there wouldn't be no case. It would have been open and shut. We'd have been under the jail for murdering somebody. So we asked for that same penalty for Derek Chauvin. Thank you.
Yeah, and he's asking the question there that I think millions and millions of people have asked about Derek Chauvin in particular, asked in so many cases that look so similar, including the multiple cops who, since that became one of the biggest news stories of last year, have themselves decided, I'm going to kneel on someone's neck for as long as I want. For a rational human, it just does not make any sense that you would do something like that. And you can hear it in his voice. We can't conceive of such needless cruelty.
And something that really impacted me that I found out, during these statements, is that Derek Chauvin, that this was his day off. Like, he didn't even need to be there. He didn't, he decided to work to fill in for somebody and to come in on his day off. And the fact that he was so callous and that he really wanted to essentially oppress Mr. Floyd to the point of death over what was allegedly a $20 counterfeit bill on his day off of all things. Like, I think it just really speaks to the callousness.
Yeah, and Adrienne's right. I think there's a culture within policing that enables people with a chip on their shoulder, with an ego, who are prone to violence to become police officers. And so many of them think, oh, well, there's no camera that's rolling, or we're gonna move that group of spectators or that crowd away, or there couldn't possibly be a surveillance camera in this house. When I taser a teenager after 30 seconds and he's on the back porch of his girlfriend's house, which is another story that happened this week. I mean, time and time again, there are police officers who are taking shortcuts, who are not following procedures, who are taking matters into their own hands because they don't think they will get caught. And the only regret they seem to have is that they did get caught, that there was a camera, that there was a body camera that was on instead of off. And to me, until that changes, until that part of policing changes, no matter how many officers are held accountable for breaking the law, for killing people, for excess force, you're never really gonna change the culture of police in the United States.
Yeah. Well, finally, let's turn to this. There was potentially nothing that Derek Chauvin himself could say, and certainly we're going to say, that would make the situation any better, considering what he did. That said, what he chose to say was odd at the very least. Let's show you a bit of his comments from today.
Chauvin, this is your opportunity if you wish to give any input to the court. And so I turn it over to you and your attorney.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, due to some additional legal matters at hand, I'm not able to give a full formal statement at this time. But very briefly, though, I do want to give my condolences to the Floyd family. There's going to be some other information in the future that would be of interest. And I hope things will give you some peace of mind. Thank you.
So I'm assuming that the first portion of that was potentially because he has pending other legal proceedings that are happening. There's certain things that he doesn't want to say that might influence that. But the second part about there's going to be some other information in the future that would be of interest, and I hope things will give you some peace of mind. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Adrienne, do you have any idea what he's referring to there?
I do not specifically, but what I speculate that he's talking about is with the federal charges, he may just take a plea deal so that they don't have to go through the trial and everything again to go through these things. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is it. But it is also interesting that he decided not to necessarily speak here in any way because he doesn't want it to be used against him in those future prosecutions. But it makes sense. I think that the one thing he did that was wise is to acknowledge the Floyd family by providing his condolences. Because even if he chose to completely respect his Fifth Amendment right at trial and in his future trials, to at least acknowledge the pain is so incredibly important.
That's a perfectly valid theory. I think that you're probably onto something. That in that case, I guess he's expressing a little bit more, at least, interest in their well-being than I would have expected. I hope that you're right, potentially for their sake. I don't know what implications that would have on the amount of additional time he would serve, but it's likely, regardless of what it is, to now add up to a significant amount. So potentially, maybe that's it.